know the phrase that pays. Yes, we bring that energy. Hello, guys. Well, hello, guys. I feel like we just did this. Steve Conley, Mike Manley. I feel like we were just here.
That's what happens as you get older. That's what I've been told, and we're experiencing it now.
Yo,
I remember my dad telling me the older you get, the faster time goes.
When you guys log out, I stay here. I'm here the whole time.
You never leave. You're like Steve Conley's new title is Uatu the Watcher. He stays here and just watches the chat until the next week, just to make sure that nobody shows up.
He just likes wearing a toga. I know. I get it.
That's right.
Tom's always
big glow. He's bald, just like me. He has amazingly glowing eyes.
He had to fix his deal. He's like, what? What are you talking about? America, this is you. Tom Zoller says the Gandalf theory. A cartoonist is never late, nor is he ever early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
But he is always covered with a zipper toe.
Zipper toe 4.
Toe and elbow.
That should have been my wrestling move. Guys, let's introduce the show. Well, hello, guys. My name is JAMAR NICHOLAS. I am your first host, and you're watching Pencil to Pencil, your favorite Wednesday 8 p.m. EST live cast brought to you by expert cartoonists.
What's this? The intergalactic static? Being jammed by rival podcast.
They're jamming the transmission. I'm JAMAR NICHOLAS. I'm your first host. I wear many hats besides this one. My first hat is that I am the second vice president of the National Cartoon Society and also the Philadelphia chapter chair. Go Birds. I also have a graphic novel middle grade series of Scholastic Graphics, Leon Extraordinary. The next book, Leon Worst Friends Forever, is in stores now.
But what about the next book?
What about the next book? Title to be announced, will be out this time next year.
Will already be out.
Well, it'll be out. We'll see. It's going to be like October, like kissing November. We'll see. We'll see how the rhythms do. The rhythm's going to get you. They said that. But I would be remiss if I did not introduce my cohort, co-conspirator, and co-conquistador. He is, and I was thinking about this. I was walking a dog. He is the Johnny Appleseed of webcomics. Before they were even calling it webcomics, Scott McCloud was like, yo, I don't even know what we should call this stuff, but Stone Cold Steve Conley was already doing it. Guys, give him his flowers. He's your friend and mine. By God, it's Stone Cold Steve Conley. What's up, Steve Conley?
Gentlemen, it's so good to see you. I apologize for this bizarro angle. I'm working with some reluctant tech this evening. But yes, my name is Steve Conley. I am your Cobra Commander. I'll
destroy you, JAMAR NICHOLAS.
I love it.
12th favorite webcomic, The Middle Age, which is available at middleage.com. It's on Webtoons, it's on Tapas, it's on GoComic. A new episode 332, is just posted over on Patreon. I also make the TTRPG stuff. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, Stabracadabra, I'll try it again. Stabracadabra launches a week from today. Find out more at Stabracadabra.
Wow.
And
you'll be stabbing by the end of the year?
Oh yeah, the PDF will go out by the end of the year. But there's also going to be a second book. It's my first campaign. Will there be 2 books? I can tell people about it elsewhere. You don't want to hear about that.
Sure we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us.
I'm doing my first book, which is a collection of magic items. I think I've got a pretty unique gimmick, trick, scheme, mechanic. Let's call it that. Mechanism for within D&D. And the D&D nerds will like it because dungeon masters want to increase jeopardy and players want power, and this gives them both. Basically it gives people, it increases the risk while giving you a little more juice, which is, I think people will dig. Anywho, I would be remiss if I did not introduce the third leg of this stool, the The man who creates unbelievably 2 daily comics. 2. Has that? I don't even think that's been done before. I don't. In the history of syndicated comics, Mike.
I
Maybe
don't know.
wrote-
There's
maybe
probably somebody who did 4.
Some people wrote more than one, but drew. Oof. Anyway, that's Mike Manley. He's a miracle. He is the marvel of mark making. What did you do, Mike? You a storyboarder for Venture Brothers. You're the Dark Hawk's daddy. You written or illustrated for everybody. Ren and Stimpy. What did I say? The Venture Brothers. Samurai.
Yeah.
Samurai Jack. Samurai
My
Jack.
goodness. So you're a legend, and I'm lucky to share a pixel with you.
Oh, come on now. You're just being too nice.
Tell me more about my eyes.
I just have a lot of different interests in the comic art, animation, cartooning space. I always like doing different things. I don't like just doing one thing. So I feel fortunate to have had a career that has allowed me to stick my toe into different things that I've always been interested in.
So, and I was thinking about that. Steve might be onto something. I know there's plenty of cases in the annals, watch it, of comics.
Careful.
Of people who, kind of like double or triple dip, but usually it's like somebody writes, there's like Jerry Scott writes Baby Blues and he writes Zits, you know what I mean? But I would be hard pressed to find somebody who drew 2 strips at the same time.
Well, didn't Dick?
Maybe
High
Dick
and Lowest was what 2? Dick Brown did 2 strips, right?
Oh yeah, maybe you're right. So wait, Dick Brown did High and Lowest in
Haggard.
Haggard. Wait, yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think that's right. Chat, help us out.
He did too. I mean, it's probably a little easier to draw High and Lowest than to draw a guy with a submachine gun in the jungle, but I could be wrong.
There was that whole run of Hagar where they were had tanks, right? Every rip on a M1 Abrams or something like that.
There was a juggle excursion. There was a juggle extraction.
He was
right?
Hagar. He was doing his take on Colonel Kurtz from The Heart of Darkness. Now.
Yeah, our resident cartooning laureates in the room. D-Fish, DRD. What up, D-Fish? What up, Notorious DRD? D-Fish says, yup, Dick Brown did High and Lowest and Haggard.
Yeah. No, I'm sure he also probably had assistants because all those guys back in the day had assistants, and I do have an assistant now. Liang has sort of left the nest, but Mimi is still helping. She's the one. She's coloring the Sundays now, and she helps me on some of the backgrounds on the 2 strips. You have to be very, very efficient. That's the thing about doing. It's still long hours, but you have to be very efficient, and you basically have to work when you don't want to work. You just have to sit down and you make the pencil move. There's no other way to do. I think even just to do a regular strip, because the real difference between comics and strips is that there's never like a fill-in. They can't go, well, this week we're going to run some, Blondies from 1952. I mean, I suppose they could, but you really can't. You got to be there every day. That's really, for me, the main difference from anything else I've done is that there is never a break. And anybody who you read about who's done a strip for a long, long time. That's one of the things. I was reading a Cy Berry interview. He worked 6-7 days a week, and most of those guys did. They worked, Now maybe again, if you had a style that was simpler, you could probably sit down. And also, if you're writing and drawing it, you could say, well, I want to go fishing. So this week, it's a snowman and a snowstorm, right? But in general, if you're drawing there's strips like Prince Valiant. There's no way you could ever farm in something like Prince Valiant. I mean, I heard that Foster routinely worked 60 to 80 hours a week on that strip.
Yeah.
That's also, just to put it back in there for the lore's sake of comics, and also remember that there were a part of the system of daily comics back then where gag salesmen, right? Or, it was well documented that there was a business that some people just wrote gags and went kind of door to door and would sell like months of gags to cartoonists. Because Mike was saying, the stream is never ending. So whatever you can do that helps that along. I guess you would call that AI back then. Oh, I don't use gags.
I have another chat group with some older cartoonists, and some of them used to do that. Used to sell gags.
They sold gags,
right? Or what you would do is you would make a bunch of cartoon ideas, and then you'd go to New York and you'd have leave behinds, and you'd go to all the places that you could do that, and then Field and Stream, and there were so many magazines. People have completely forgotten now how many magazines there were, and so that's how they made their living, because they're not doing a strip, but they're selling one cartoon here about a fish and one cartoon, and you might be able to swap them or change things. You had guys who wrote stuff for other people. It was a really layered. You had people who lettered bunches of strips. There were, I forget the name of the letter, but there was one guy who used to basically lived in what they called it, Cartoon County in Connecticut. He would drive around all the people and pick up, this from Kniff and this from this and this, and would letter in the different people's style, and then go back and drop them all off. So
in this golf cart.
Yeah. A lot of those guys. Again, that was the time to be a cartoonist, because you could make a really good living. You could afford to hire assistants, and the world was slower. So all those guys tended to work much further ahead. I heard that Frank Robbins was so far ahead on his stuff that he had like 2 or 3 stories done.
Wow.
Right. And again, he wrote and drew his strip. So, again, you had, that was probably also the main difference between comic books, comic strips, is that almost anybody who did a comic book didn't write the comic book. They drew all the Marvel guys, right? All the people that we admire. They didn't really write the stuff. Kirby and those guys kind of did back in the day a little bit, but they mostly got the scripts, especially once the 50s came in, and then the House on Americans thing, everything had to be go through the comics code and all that stuff. So yeah, it's again, as I'm always saying, it sort of has to fit your personality. The job has to fit your personality. If you're a fidgety person, it'd probably be hard for you to be a cartoonist.
Word up. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of what we're doing tonight. Before we get started, guys, thank you so much for coming back and joining us again. We love the pencilers. We love as D. Parson calls us, the pencil pushers that come and hang out with us every week. We have a guest list show, but as I've said a million times, it makes no difference to me. Guest, no guest. This is still must see TV, right? This is premium Gem Mint 10 video scoping. So I'm glad that you're with us again. We have a topic tonight, you guys. Your three expert cartoonists are going to talk about drawing with background. So it's been a while since we've done a kind of like classroom episode. I was going to call it like we've done in the past, what we used to call boot camp, where I think we scared off a lot of early viewers. With
you would always run the ad that had like Arlie Ermy like yelling at somebody.
Whatever the opposite of Bob Ross is what it was.
Right. Yeah.
It was terrifying.
Right. There's no happy little. We're going to put in a happy little background here. No.
Holy, you're not wrong. I had a little folder of like boot camp images. And my favorite one is probably one of the last one we did was you could see like the boot camp bus, like the dude just got picked up and they dropped him off at Lejeune or whatever. And this dude is like this. He's like stepping off the bus like this. And the drill sergeant's like, give me 20. So, but yeah, we used to do boot camp. We kind of scared some people, but I think it was all, the hearts were in the right place.
Yeah, I think we're from the generation that we understood, maybe wanted boot camp. I think young modern cartoonists, they don't want boot camp. No, that's too. Comics are supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to be like, choke yourself, scumbag.
Let's talk about that for a second. I think this kind of ties in without getting too deep into like what's going on with art education these days. But like, I think the modern whoever isn't really looking for criticism. They want cheat codes or they want answers, not necessarily somebody like telling them that their shit is wrong. I don't know, Mike, do you agree with that? And I'd love to hear what.
Yeah, I mean, this would be, when I still mentor people. So I've been teaching like 25 years now, which sounds crazy to me. But yeah, I would say that people are in general, people are more sensitive. I don't think social media. There you go.
Look at dude's face. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't read the room right, Mike.
Yeah.
I apologize.
I was talking about this I think it was on a thread by Bill Ray on his Facebook page because he had just gone to Lightbox, and a young kid had shown him his portfolio, and Bill's like a straight up dude, and he gave him feedback, and the guy just kind of like, like faded out. And I do think that it's hard. It seems harder now for you as a teacher to critique people. And I would always say that the critique, in fact, I had to start at the beginning of every class. I would give part of my, my lecture, is that when I'm critiquing a young artist's work, it's not me critiquing them as a person. The critique is a way for me going, well, this is good or this is not good. And what is not good, this is a way you can fix it. These are approaches to fix it. This is what's wrong. You're foreshortening or whatever the problem is. And I always would do draw-overs. So it wasn't just me going, oh, that's crappy, blah, 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 whatever, I'm very well aware of the fact that as an artist, we're sensitive.
Right.
And young people today are way more sensitive than I was as a young person, because I actually would have been fine if somebody was mean, as long as I could get something out of it. But it's not quite that way today. So I realized as I went on as a teacher, I had to change my strategy, because people just are, it's simply true. They just are not as tough as they used to be. And I also think that when you put stuff on social media and everybody goes, that's wonderful, that's the best, it's all likes, that does not at all translate into whether you're actually really good. And it certainly doesn't translate into the real world, right? Because the real world is you graduate and you go and you want to get a job at Disney or wherever you want to work, Pixar or whatever.
Right.
You want to work on this stuff. And those people are not going to sugarcoat it. You may not even hear back from them at all. I mean, that's the typical thing I hear now. The business is really in a bad shape. So you got a lot of experienced people out of work, and then you've got the tiers of people who've graduated over the last several years, who, if the experienced people can't get work, then maybe some of those people can't get work, so it's going to be harder for you to get work. So your work's got to be really good. You really, really have to be good. And if you're not good, nobody now has time to feed the stuff. They're not gonna sugarcoat it, right? So, but yeah, I had to talk about that at the beginning of the class, just so, because I was aware of the fact that some people would just, their enthusiasm would immediately fold, So,
Yeah.
and I heard many stories when I went back to art school of like the old teachers in the old days who would, like, there was one guy who, threw a painting out of the window, took somebody's painting in class, and his critique was, "Choo," tossed it like a frisbee, I heard many, many stories. In fact, there were great teachers, great artists who went to my school who were teachers. And some of them, if they didn't like your work, they wouldn't even fucking talk to you. They wouldn't even and your position in class was also based upon how good you were. So if you suck, you don't get a good angle on the model. You're in the back. You got to earn your spot.
You're next to the art cabinet, right?
Right. Yeah. And it seems hard now, but I actually think that that's honest, because one of the things about art is that there's a lot of lawyering about art that you don't get in other professions, right?
Yeah.
You don't get a lot. If you suck as a musician, when you start playing, everybody goes, "Ooh," or, "Oh man, that's awesome," right? And you can't go, "What sucks? Well, that's just, that's the way I play Beethoven."
That's how I do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. Yeah. It's all sour notes. That's the new style, So,
Yeah, I don't want to derail us off the topic, but taking criticism and giving criticism are such important things. And I think I got some pretty harsh criticism very early on, well deserved. And at the moment, I think I didn't want to receive it, but I mean, it was an act of generosity. The idea that I could send my work to somebody and they could give me feedback, and even if the feedback wasn't, "I love it, here's a ribbon that you can wear," because it's so good. It was critical. It was, "Here are things you could do better." And I think I was a 24-year-old kid. I thought, this is not what I wanted. But looking back, it was such a generous thing to do.
I'll have to, if you go onto my drawman.blogspot blog, I have on there a critique I got back from George Freeman when I was still in high school. And George Freeman used to draw Captain Canuck.
Yeah.
Right? Fantastic artist. And so I don't remember if I heard that they were. Anyway, I did some samples and I sent them to, the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the time to go over every page and do a little draw over and give me a critique. Now, of course, part of you is disappointed because they're not like going, Excelsior, come step forward through the portal, my son, But I always remembered that, and that's what I try to pay it forward in that way. The same thing. That he drew over my stuff. He gave me my first real great critique, and I'm always grateful to him for doing that. So what I'm doing tonight is, we've done that before on the show where people have sent in stuff. What I'm doing tonight is sort of an extension of that, where I'm sort of trying to pay it forward in this little talk we're going to do tonight about, making your background better, because I think it's one of the things that people kind of fall off on in a way early. But the truly great cartoonists,
JAMAR Nicholas,
backgrounds are so vital to their work. And it's sort of hard in the beginning, because one of the things that happens when you're developing as an artist is you're sort of uneven. You might be naturally good at one thing, but kind of weak at another thing. And then you try to concentrate on that thing. It's like juggling. Then you kind of fall off on the other thing. And there's a lot more information on how to today. But overall, I still think in a way that there really is not an overall comprehensive course on cartooning. Maybe some places like the Kubert School or whatever, but most, 99.9% of people want to do comics are never going to go to art school to learn how to do comics. There's more how to do comics in art school, but I still think you really just have to concentrate on that for about 3 to 10 years.
And what made you think of that? Because we were talking about what to do this week, and you jumped on that like that. So that was on your mind. What was it? Were you in the middle of drawing a big background when the subject came up, or what prompted it?
Because I think one of the things I noticed, and this is something I noticed from teaching, that one of the things, everybody likes drawing figures. There's not a cartoonist that doesn't love drawing figures. It's rarer to find a cartoonist that also likes to draw backgrounds. And the single weakest thing in most of the young artists I see, even some of the more experienced artists, is that the backgrounds are not well done. There's it's sort of like, it's like the bodybuilder who has like a big upper body, can draw the veins and, but it's got, bird legs, right?
Right.
And when you look at...
Don't skip leg day.
Don't skip leg day, right. And when you look at the really great cartoonists, you don't notice that. It's actually a part of their world.
Right.
The backgrounds I always say backgrounds are like a character.
Yeah.
Right. And everything is intentional. Everything you do as a cartoonist is intentional. Even if you decide to do something that looks like it's not intentional or accidental, like taking a toothbrush and doing some splatter, that's an intentional thing to give you something random. right? So everything is an informed decision. And so what I see often in a young artist's work, especially, but even like I say, even more experienced, I sort of feel like they really like the figure, and then the background is just something that's kind of jammed in. It's kind of jammed in on the side, right? So maybe if you want to put up that first slide, the shape design slide, which I put up on my website, and I put that up on my Instagram and everything before. So when I was mentoring Liang and Mimi when they first had them here, and I posted, like I said, I posted this before, I would make these little charts for them. And I would do these also for my classes where I would hand them out. And so the main thing we're talking about overall tonight is backgrounds are characters and a stage, right? They're a stage for the world. You're building a world, and it's almost like if you look at really early Renaissance art where they started to deal with perspective, you had that sort of proscenium arch. Everything was like a stage, and everything was very flat. Even when they had the little grid of perspective, everything was very flat, right? And comics are flat. We give the impression of space through the use of shapes and design and perspective. And most comic strips, which is where comics started, were very flat. Again, like you were looking at a stage where the audience is always looking at sort of this very sort of shallow space, and the characters tended to move left to right. And so most strips are staged like a play, and you usually have the characters walking left to right, because that's where we read, left to right. So everything kind of goes left to right. And so as you can see here, you sort of have these basic shapes, and then the shapes overlap. This is the second illustration. I also would do this for my illustration, my animation class, where people designing backgrounds. And so everything can break down into these basic shapes that overlap. All right. And if you can do that, you can overlap shapes, and then you can overlap shapes in an interesting way. That is the first stage of designing your backgrounds. Again, these are all intentional choices. So even white space or negative spaces, we'll see in some of the examples later on, that's a choice, right? Everything is a choice. Whether you're drawing something very realistic or you're drawing something that is very, cartoony, it's a choice. So I will put this up again on my website, on my Facebook, and on my Blue Sky after the show tonight. So if people want a copy of this for themselves, they'll be able to download it. But I actually would tape that on the wall behind me, which would be right above like Mimi or Liang's desk, so that they could sort of look at it. Now, and these are things that I taught myself through observation, because I would look at stuff and go like, well, why do I like it? right? And there were certain artists that certain things that really, I think, struck a chord to me when I was very young, especially like Chuck Jones cartoons were laid out by Maurice Noble, because he had those things just were so riveting to me, and his shape language that stuck with me since I was a kid. So the other thing is that the props or backgrounds give you an idea of the kind of space that you're in, whether you're in a landscape or in an interior. And even what you don't see, what you don't, I used to say, what you don't delineate, the mind creates. Because you don't draw everything. And we'll see a great example of this I'll talk about later is Mike Mignola, because there's a lot that Mike does not draw, but it's still there, and your mind creates it. So part of the thing is you have to do research to build you spend your time designing things, looking at things like lamps and tables or whatever. Like I'm always doing that on the Phantom, but I'm also doing that on Judge Parker because I'm drawing a lot of domestic things. So and some artists have a really good mind for that. They remember things, like they remember what a lamp looks like. They have a photographic memory. And my memory's pretty good, but it's also well exercised, right? And then you all can also break down the shapes into patterns. So I sort of break down my backgrounds. When I think about a background, I think about what shapes do I get out of the background? Is it a bridge? Is it a window? Is it a building? Is it a chair? What does the shape of the object? What is the shape? Is it round? Is it a weird shape? Can I use that shape to frame something? Also, does this not only do you have shapes, but you have patterns, and then a pattern can also become a texture. And then you have light and shadow, especially if you're drawing something realistic. So you have, on top of that, you have the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. So you have something in front of the characters, you have the middle space where the characters might be, or you might have something behind the characters. And then you play with that. You play with the shape, as you can see in the second illustration. You have one, which is could be like a building and maybe some barrels. Second shape, and then the background is the third shape. Now you could take that second or third shape or first shape and turn that into a person. But I'm always looking for an excuse or a way to take something and make it useful, not just Greek it in, just to put something in, but actually, can I take that shape and make that shape interesting? Right. The first thing I think about, and this just comes to my mind when I think of a scene, I get a script. First thing I think about, is there a shape in the foreground that frames something? Is there a shape in the background that frames something? Sometimes it's easier, if it's a jungle or a landscape, you could put something in the foreground, and you could have the character like the Phantom in the middle ground, and then you could have something very far away, right? So it's really easy to do something like that, right? Sometimes for a panel where there's exposition or a lot of talking, that's what I call like a gimme panel. That's just a panel to move the story. You have a face, a head of somebody talking, maybe you don't need much of a background, but you can still maybe angle something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And again, now some people draw things very flat, have a very flat style. But you're not going to digest this chart all in one night. But what I would suggest you do is you copy it and you print it out and you stick it down right in front of your drawing desk. And then you refer to that. And when you're laying out something, this is sort of part of your checklist. When you go, I'm drawing these, I'm kind of stuck on this. Oh, can I use something from this little handout here to help spark an idea to make my background more interesting?
Mike, I'm going to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Would somebody who was drinking in this information go, oh, well, I've seen this already. That's Wally Wood's 22 panels at work. Like, we're not exactly talking about the same thing here.
Well, I mean, Wally Wood's panels, 22 panels that always work, are how to lay out a panel, right? The big head, the different shot, the faraway shot. That
cigarette pose.
Right. That does work along. See, all this stuff is interrelated, right? It's like the cuff is on the sleeve is on the shirt is on the bottom. It's all connected. The thing is that we tend to think of them as separate, but once you're really working, it's just a natural part of your flow. It's a natural part of way of you, the way that you think. So when I was younger, it would be more piece by piece by piece. Now it's more organic. And shape design creates perspective. And perspective and shape design create composition. So everything you draw is a composition. Every panel you draw has a composition in it. Has an object in there. So you can either make that composition good, or you can make the composition kind of, you just kind of stick something in there. But I say you make it intentional. Even the way you place, if you had just a head,
yeah,
do you place it right in the middle of the panel? Do you slightly push it over to one side? How high do you place it? When you look at things like portraiture, classical portraiture, where you place the person's head and how much of the figure, depending upon whether it's like a bust portrait or a full figure, the artist would spend a lot of time placing the person, placing the head, placing the hand. It just wasn't like, I just start, throwing something. It's different if you're doing a study, but if you're actually doing a narrative, all these things are very important because they create a mood, right? The placement of the characters, the type of composition using these shapes creates a mood, creates a feeling. Even if you're doing something, and like, again, one of the things I've enjoyed about my career is working on different kinds of things. So I worked on things like Samurai Jack, which was a great show, great design, very flat. It's what I call a flat show. It's not like Batman or Batman Beyond, which I designed backgrounds on. That was a really deep perspective space with lots of slashing lights and darks and patterns and textures. Samurai Jack was very flat. And so the shape design, the simpler the shapes, the more important those shapes became. And so even having no background was done on purpose, maybe because you just wanted to focus on some intense expression or pose of Jack. So that would be very different than working on Batman or Superman or Venture Brothers,
Right.
or even like Kim Possible. I've worked on a lot of different styles of shows. So everything is intentional. There is being a good artist is not having any lazy design, and all those things work together to create a good narrative. And if you start paying attention to that, when you watch a really good cartoon that you like, you can actually use these ideas as a way to pull it apart and study why you like it. Right? When I was a kid, I loved those Maurice Noble designed, and all the Roadrunner, What's Opera Doc, all the Ralph Phillip cartoon, all those great cartoons that he laid out. And I learned to be able to pull that apart. And when I started pulling that apart, this is what I came up with, this chart here.
So, Mike, I have a question real quick. Going back to that lazy design thing. Now, I know from just being in the mix for a long time and even being pals with you for a long time, I understand what that term means now. And I just want to kind of decode that a little bit. I think to maybe somebody who's watching this or is just trying to figure it all out, like to say that this is lazy, I don't think people would understand what that means. I think that's kind of also a part of effort. Like if you draw a panel and you're like, well, I drew it, I'm going to draw another panel and the next thing. Lazy design to me means that you drew something once and that you're totally fine with whatever that thing is and not doing 3 or 4 or 5 different variations of that same thing. How can I put this here? Maybe this should be here. Like you just like pasted the thing down once and you move on. So can you maybe break down a little bit more about what you mean by lazy design? Was that kind of on point with what you're talking about?
Well, yes, but I mean, I guess basically what I'm saying is when you're drawing something and you just put it down and then you put a background in, you put something,
there's a tree.
You just, you put, done, you move on. But maybe that's not, it's distracting you. Maybe it's not a nice shape. When you look at a good or great artist, everything is considered. Even the little shapes of the flowers. You look at somebody. In fact, I remember a really good story. A good story is I remember meeting Mike Mignola in DC right after he had done Gotham by Gaslight, one of his first big successes at DC. Yeah, sort of steampunk or whatever, Batman in London, Victorian. And he told me that he had art with him, and he had this drawing of Batman, and I forget if he was jumping or falling or whatever. And he told me how long he spent redrawing and redrawing and redrawing and redrawing the shape of Batman's cape. He couldn't get the cape the way that he wanted. Now, you could have just put it down and said, fuck it, I'm done. Yeah.
Right.
Turn the pages in. But if you look at he's, to me, one of the best examples of what I'm talking about. Because if you trace Mike's work, which is always very designy, and you can see the influence of people that he liked, like Wrightson and Frazetta. But if you look at his work from the beginning to now, he's continually worked at paring down his style. So he's continued to work on designing and cooking it, like boiling it down. So why don't we bring up there's a Hellboy page.
If it's not in this run, I'll go to the next one. Do you see it? I don't see it. We have a couple of folders, you guys. All right, I'm going to pull this. And I'll go to the next one. Just give me 1 second, Mike.
Okay.
Steve, do a little soft shoe while I'm looking.
So, what was it about? Did you gravitate toward Mike's work immediately, Mike?
Yeah, I did. I did gravitate towards his work immediately. I mean, I think he's I think it's called.
Oh, I think I found it. It's a like a 7-panel page.
Yeah.
I got it. Give me 1 second.
My tech was giving me a hard time because I was like, you go and you like try to find an image, but wait a minute, no, you can't download. There we go. Okay, so you want to blow it? Can you blow that up a little bit? Can you?
I'll do my best.
Okay, all right. So this is a great page, and one of the things about Mike's work is you notice that as he's gone along, he's done less. It's not literal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now you look at the amount of positive or dark, but also look at the amount of negative. I mean, there's that floor in that second panel there. Your mind, is what I say, what you don't delineate, the mind creates. Your mind creates that floor and that shaft of light, which moves you not only through and forward to the forward frame of that staircase, but it also moves you, if you scroll up a little bit, no, down, I'm sorry. It moves you to that panel.
Mm-hmm. It's almost pointing at it. If you look
exactly.
At it, you see that right there.
Right. That's intentional.
Yeah.
Also, it's intentional that there is no background. And then look at the beautiful composition in that next frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just a very pleasing composition. And you go from, I don't know if that's Liz, you go up over the top of Hellboy's head, down through that white space, at the bottom of the mirror, right up through, right? That is just a beautiful, beautiful page.
And you see the reflection in the mirror comes right here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's wizardry.
Right.
And you see the edge of the mirror puts you back in perspective of exactly what we're looking at. Right there. See it? Yeah. Boom.
That's all intentional. That is not an accident.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mike, I remember, you know, Mike he didn't want to come up with a style like Mobius or Tomo or somebody who does this, you know, or Gene Colan or somebody. There's certain artists whose use of backgrounds and perspective, you can tell just from like one part of a panel who that their work is so strong and personalized, right? So this is what I'm saying. There are no accidents on that page. Whatever is there intentionally, and whatever is not there is intentional. And every shape on that page is fucking gorgeous. It is beautiful. The positive, the negative. There's no feathering. There's no gorgeous, you know, cross hatching, and you know, this is the chiaroscuro, like the purest form of it's black and white.
I even love his noise, like just those ticks.
Right.
It puts on the work that's even like measured.
Now
What do you
this
call those, Mike? Activation dots?
right, activation dots, yeah. Now, if you look at Mike's work now, he almost doesn't have any activation dots. He's continued. In fact, if you find there's a Gotham by Gaslight page, you can find that.
I don't know. Okay. Let me see what I can do here. I don't know if it's in this row. Wait, is this it?
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Look at Jamar. It's almost like I know what I'm doing.
So can you make
Yeah.
biggerize that?
Yeah, give me a second.
So now this is an early Mike page. It's still very flat, still very graphic. Right. I think this might have been inked by, I don't know if Mike inked this or Bob Wycheck, I forget. But and so if you scroll down,
That hand, it's crazy. Sorry, guys. Give me a second.
the white space is as important as the black space. And you can see between these two, this is, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 15 years before that. So he was rendering more, his proportions were more, less stylized. Look at the perspective there on that building. Still, you still see the big, here's a classic example of what I'm talking about, just like with that banister. That building in the foreground on the left, you can read that because of the shape of that building, of the awning and the drain. You read your eye flows. Everything is framed. He was fading that out. He had a little halftone. Now he doesn't do any halftone. Look at the framing of that fence there, and the little. Mike used to draw these little floating pieces of paper, right? Just little activation papers, activation shapes, right? But again, all these shapes are very beautiful.
Yeah.
You
Right.
can. I'm sorry. You can even see. I don't know how good everybody's monitors are, but you can even see the blue lines. Like this is all sketched out, but he left it out in the inking because it wasn't necessary.
Right. In fact, I remember seeing a Toth page once, a beautiful page where he had drawn this guys in suits doing all this stuff. And then you could see where he actually had drawn the suit. And then he blacked it all in. He'd drawn all the drapery. It was beautiful. And then he just decided oh, no, man. Just put the big black on there. So again, everything is intentional. If you look at that bottom panel, that's a great illustration of those first couple of illustrations on that chart, the shape design. This is all shape design. And once you start boiling it, again, Mike's the guy who kept boiling this stuff down. Now you could see that Hellboy page, and you can see how he had gotten to the point where he decided he wouldn't need to feather out that background. Right. Why don't we jump back now to the first Charlie Brown?
Give me a second.
I think that's Peanuts 1, I think.
Oh, you have a couple of them, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let me do this. You guys, Steve, say something nice.
Yeah. Well, we got a question here from Ken and James. Comment, Mike. Do you guys have artist friends that you use as sounding board to stand in for an art director for criticism? Mike, do you bounce your work off anybody?
Not now, really. I mean, sometimes I still talk to Blevins often, Now, when we worked together in Williamson's studio, we were like right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We would do that. And when the girls were here, we would bounce ideas off of each other. So now here's another. This is the first Peanuts, and I think this is fascinating for a couple of reasons because we'll show another one. We just had
Benjamin Clark
on the podcast last week, but when we think of Peanuts, we tend to think of the modern version of Peanuts. But again, look how simple that background is.
Right.
Right. But what you really notice is that there's space in it.
Mm-hmm.
3 dimensions, try to indicate it 3-dimensional space. That little line behind Charlie Brown in the first panel.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Gives you the back of the space. Right? That's intentional. Because otherwise he would just sort of be floating in this. That one line is all you need. Right? Now that's what I call a design space because it's a cheat. Right? We know that line of the curve in the grass is pointing at Charlie Brown. And we know, as we understand from our visual language, things that are closer are bigger, things that are smaller are further away are smaller. When you're cartooning, that's something we can work with. But you can take that shape of the grass and the steps and actually make that an arrow. Mm-hmm. And those 2 lines by Charlie Brown do 2 things. One, they ground him. They create the space between him and them. And everything is at a little bit of an angle. So the space is deeper. Right? It's not completely flat, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you go to the next Peanuts,
you make me work for it tonight.
Yeah, I tried to number all these with my.
I see. Yeah, I got them. I see.
Okay, now I don't know how many years later. This is probably like 30 years later. Yeah. This is absolutely flat.
Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of Peanuts.
Right. Absolutely flat. And the negative space, which is something that was always very important to him in his work, is still there. Mm-hmm. Except what he's done is he's really turned this into a flat stage. Right?
Mike, I also enjoy how in every panel the characters are just a little raised or lowered, so they're not all on the same plane. So right. Like Linus is a little higher or a little lower in each panel, so it doesn't feel static.
But your eye goes right across.
Yeah.
Right? They're a little bit closer in, or because he wants to,
Sorry.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's something about that. We were talking when we had Raina and Scott on that 4th panel where Snoopy and Linus are shaking hands. The idea that it has no background in that moment frozen in time, that like the idea of you have no background. I don't know. It holds the moment a little bit longer
because that's the most important moment.
Yeah.
Right. Action. Stop. Action.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's an intentional choice to not have a background in that.
And in a cinematic moment, the moment when the camera stops moving and the action dies down, that's when everything might come into focus. But in this case, he just blows everything out. It's so elegant. And he does the same thing when he gets to the second to last panel with Lucy's moment of reflection there.
Right. He also does it when Snoopy kisses her.
Yeah.
Right. Now there's another Peanuts in there we can look at if you can find that one. All right.
Hold on a second. Let me lock in.
Okay. So this is in between those 2.
Yeah.
right? Now, if you can biggerize that, all right, this is in between those two. And there's much more real 3D space. You have the trees in front of Charlie Brown and trees behind, right? That's in between. So this, again, you look at the houses, and the houses in the perspective of the little winding, that bottom tier, the first
the
driveway, trees, the angle of the sidewalk, right?
Mm-hmm.
His pacing in the placement of the characters is very much like the one that we just previously looked at. But his shape design and his space is much more dimensional. So the characters are also more dimensional. They're more volumetric. So this is the more volume. Look at the middle panel on the second. Look at the space that's in that.
That's nice. Yeah.
Right? Foreground, middle ground, background. Those two lines that run, the top line of the background runs between her eye line and Charlie Brown's eye line. That line is intentional to focus your eye on their lines. He could have moved it above it, or he could have moved it below it. That's intentional. The placement of that line is intentional to focus your eye on the character's eyes, because we tend to look at people's eyes. That's an intentional thing. You see that all the time in film. They used to do the thing, especially the old black and white movies, the film noir movies. You would even see it in the old Star Trek. They would do something called a smoot or something, was this technique. They would have a line of light that would go across on the person's expression, or in the background, right behind them, you would have a shadow going right at their eye line. That's the same exact thing, even though the only black you see on this is the local color of her hair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's a good, even though it's simple, that is a good background design. It's working to make you pay attention, or to focus your attention where he wants your eye to go. And you don't even think about it, right? There's no great rendering. There's no shadow. It's done on purpose. That's a considered choice. There's nothing on that Sunday page that does not belong there.
And that stump is keeping you grounded as the characters move around too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you can do something in for continuity. If you put something in like that fence or a tree or something, you're going to see that somewhere else to let you know you're in the same location.
Right. So, Mike, I gotta watch our time. So let's maybe do one or two more.
Okay. Now let's go to Atomo.
Oh, is that in this row? I think I saw. Oh, that's so good. Is this the one? There's a couple. You have a couple of Atomos.
All right. Yeah. Right. Now, this is all background. I mean, this guy was nuts, right?
So good.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get amazing use of perspective and draftsmanship. You also get great design. You get texture, and shape. You get it all, right? You get it all. And he wants you to see, because of all that, he wants you to see the spectacle. He wants you to feel, Tokyo or whatever just being, vaporized. when you put all that detail in there, you want people to slow down and look at it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is the opposite of what Charles Schultz was doing. It's the opposite of what Mike is doing. Right? And then there's another one. There's another Otomo.
Yeah, just right here. Oh, that's it. Oh, sorry. I got to lock in. Okay. Holy crap.
Same
Look at
thing.
that.
Right?
That's dumb. Look at that. It's like, you know, like if this doesn't move you, like, what are you even doing reading comics? Look at that.
Spectacle. But you also get pattern and you get shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's flat in a way that Asian art is. So you get these slight shapes moving. So it tends to make it monumental, right? So if you pull out a little bit,
I'll be good. Go ahead.
right? So the fact that those buildings are angled, the fact that these other buildings, you have perspective, and the pattern makes it static, and because the pattern makes it static and monumental, the other ones just being tilted a little bit create the drama, but you also makes it heavy. You feel the weight of those buildings. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we can jump ahead to let's see.
There's something about that makes it feel like slow motion.
Yes. Yeah. Let's jump ahead to the
Kirby.
Yeah, let's go to the Kirby. Let's go to the Silver Surfer.
Okay, I just saw that. Hold on a second. Come on, brain. Here it is.
So
I love it.
there's probably no better for American comic books. There is no better shape guy ever than Kirby. Right? Now, you compare his city to Otomo's city, and Kirby is like pure abstraction,
Mm-hmm.
but you feel that it's New York. It's total fucking bullshit, all made up. Right? But you feel that it's New York. Now, he's a guy who grew up in New York.
Looks like Asgard.
Right. But the thing about Kirby, the thing I think a lot of people miss is that his vision was so complete from top to bottom. The surfer is exaggerated. The perspective is exaggerated. It's not true perspective. This is almost like a isometric or like a flat perspective. But you feel the depth and you feel the power.
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody did it like that.
It's one of the few drawings that gives you a sense of vertigo.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
oh, I'm losing my balance here.
Right. And then the negative shape around of the bay or the river or whatever, is frames the surfer. And you see that all the time in Kirby's work.
Mm.
And who ate that was John Buscema. When John Buscema came in, he had a much more like Alex Raymond, Hal Foster kind of sense of space. And what he did is he looked at Kirby's design sense and he just ate that. He just copped that sense of space, of distorting perspective. Kirby knew perspective, but he distorted perspective to make it work for him to give you a feeling like that. If you had drawn that realistically, like many people would draw that realistically,
Mm-hmm.
or Mobius would draw it more realistically, but it's weak tea compared to Kirby. You don't get that kind of vision from stem to stern if you don't understand the rules, to break the rules. Everything in that background, that texture is becomes pattern. Pattern works just like the atomal pattern works. He's using pattern and shape to give you that monumental, and Kirby is doing the same thing, but to give you something fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
You know what I also love about this is that even kind of compositionally, like Surfer isn't smack middle of the page. He's kind of cocked off to the side, and it's almost not even like the Dutch tilt or anything like that. It's even a little off kilter to make the perspective even that more dynamic.
Now let's jump real quick because there was another Kirby in there. I think I had another one in there from Devil Dinosaur.
Hold on.
There we go.
Well, you saw it?
Yeah, it's above the old. It's above the Gotham by Gaslight thing.
Oh, the Rip Kirby? Oh, the Rip Kirby.
No, Jack Kirby. It's a Devil Dinosaur page.
Oh, hold on. I don't see it. Right. Oh, did I go the wrong way?
Well, I think we're going to be
here it is.
Pulling the ripcord soon. But I want to.
If people want to ask questions, are there any questions?
No, but we're coming up on our end. But I think like we've got enough here. There's so many pages we haven't looked at. I feel like we could do a part 2 for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do a part 2. Yeah,
so,
I'd hate to stop this short, but go ahead, Mike. Finish your thought.
So again, this like curvilinear, warped perspective, and just all those beautiful shapes. But your eye knows exactly where to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly where to look.
Yeah.
There's no real perspective there. That is Kirby perspective. He's doing this sort of warpy thing. But he understood perspective so well that he could break it and give you this feeling.
I wish when I told people this is JAMAR Nicholas' perspective that it worked the same way. I don't get the same reaction when I'm doing this. But even so, I don't know if you can see it. You see that S that's going across the dinosaurs. It then kind of goes back out the other way. Like it's even breaking the page into thirds. It's all very, like Mike said, it's all very deliberate. Even if it seems like it makes no sense.
Right. And if you took this and you drew over it yourself, you would see what I was talking about in my chart that we started off the show with. You would see the overlap of these shapes that create a space. Even though it's a 2D flat drawing, the use of shapes creates a sense of space.
That's great. And that sheet is downloadable from your Facebook page, Mike?
I will put that up. I will put that up on my Facebook page after this podcast, so people can download it and print it out. Put it up above your. But if you guys want to do, I'd be happy to do a second part next week if we don't.
Heck yeah!
Yeah, let's do it. Because we just scratched the surface. And,
I didn't even go into a lot of the other stuff. I'm just sort of trying to give people the primer, and then we can like dig in.
All right. Well, let's put this in our pocket for next week. And everybody, you know what? To kind of put this on a really great ending note, we kind of started off talking about the boot camps and how we scarred a lot of the early people.
You might be scared tonight. I don't know. Are people quivering on the floor?
No, they're loving it. They're like,
loving it.
And I think there might be a generation of pencil pushers that didn't see that old stuff, who don't know that this is part of the richness of pencil to pencil. So let's definitely do a part 2 next week, and let's get out of here. Thank you guys. We're on a tough schedule tonight, so we're gonna call it a night. And thank you, and thank you to Professor Mike tonight for dropping some knowledge. And this is also what happens inside the comic book pages, you guys. There's so much in there for you just to kind of pay attention to. Drink that. So, all right, we'll kind of wrap it up for tonight. For Mike and Steve and myself, we are your 3 expert cartoonists. Go into this dark night and pinch yourself.
And I will go and I will upload this to my Facebook.
Yes, let's do that. And wash your Kirby hat. All right,
Okay.
All right.
Maxim in the foreground, Herbie hand in the middle ground.
Watch your middle ground, background, and
Bart
foreground. Kirby hand.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.